Amy Lynn Jones. You've made a successful business. How did you start selling products? What advice would you give someone to start selling their products in general, i.e., building a customer base, building a label for yourself, getting your product line noticed? Thank you for all you do and share. I would
Yes, the
say,
answer is
yeah, all of
yes.
those. When I started, there was no internet. There literally was no internet. We had to go face to face. We would meet people at the gun shows and get enough business in that weekend to carry for, weeks. Um, and then when you don't, we're building stuff up that we're going to take and sell. But typically, when we were at a gun show, we didn't have a lot of shit you could buy. People were giving us money and willing to wait for our products.
Hmm.
Now with the internet, I mean, you can build 100 different avenues at the same time. I think everything should have a content business around it, even if it's not a business yet, because that's your advertising now. You can reach people all over the world any time of the day because of social media. You just wrote a book that you have published on Amazon. I don't have that, or I would be telling people about it right now. I never saw a link from you about that. But build that, right? And take that book on your Instagram and take one page out, how to build soap, how to build salves, right? Build a 1 minute content out of that every day and put that on Instagram and TikTok, and link in bio if you want this information, link in bio, and they can click it straight to your Amazon. And while they're using your Amazon link, you're probably using a click-through link, so you'll get a percentage of everything they buy in the next 24 hours also. Um, we talked about it a lot in this today in this podcast in earlier. As far as building a label, I see a lot of guys. I didn't have a label. I didn't have a brand. We didn't even have tags on my product for the first 5 years, probably. That's all free advertising. All those shirts that we sell, that's advertising. All the coffee mugs, that's advertising. It's everywhere now, and really, your advertising and your branding, it's all gonna come from social media. So why not have all of them? I find that I have very different people on TikTok than I do on Instagram, and I have different people on Facebook. Well, I hate that evil Facebook. Well, you're losing a lot of fucking money. Do whatever you want. You should have all of them. So when one shuts you off or suppresses you, but you're losing money if you're not growing all of them from the beginning. So just do it.
I think I found it, but I'm not sure.
Philip Strother, what is the best way and right temperature to store white rice and beans? Dry. I mean, I don't think there is a temperature really. I mean, don't have drastic temperature swings so that there's no condensation building up in there. Um, in a Mylar bag with as low oxygen as possible. Mylar bag goes inside a bucket, so the bucket protects the Mylar. But that's it, man. We've talked thousands of times about that, and there's very comprehensive videos. There's a lot of ways to achieve the same thing. Put the rice in the Mylar bag. Put O2 absorbers. Seal the Mylar bag with a frequency, with a bag sealer. You could even use a flat iron or a curling iron. You could use a lot of shit to do it. Um, and then the oxygen absorbers suck out all the oxygen, and then nothing can grow in there. You can achieve the same thing with nitrogen. You just take that bag, set it in the bucket, put the tube down in there, the nitrogen comes up, seal the bag. You could even just put it in buckets at that point. If you don't dump the bucket over, and the nitrogen will sit there forever, and then no bugs can grow in there because it displaces all the oxygen. There's a lot of ways to achieve the same thing. You could also take all of that rice a little bit at a time and put it in the oven and bake it up to 300 degrees or whatever so that it kills any bugs or eggs, because that's where it comes from. All those bugs, when you bring a bunch of rice in your house, the bugs are already in it.
Hmm.
You're just killing that, starving it, or suffocating it. That's what you're doing. And then to keep, because if you took all of that rice, you could take rice and kill off. You could freeze it or heat it and just put it in a bucket, just plain in a bucket. Once you've sterilized it like that, put the lid on. No bag at all. Moths ain't getting up in that motherfucker. They can't get through there. Bugs are not getting in there at that point. They're not going to seek that out and come from the outside to the inside and find that. It's just not going to happen. We moved here with rice that was in buckets with no bags, wasn't treated in any manner. Moved here, they'd probably been in buckets for 10 years, opened them up, and there was nothing crawling around in them. We've also had stuff that's been sitting there and we opened it up and there was all kinds of shit crawling around in it. In which case we just take it outside and feed it to the chickens or leave it. Like if you have rice and you open it up and you're hungry and it's time to eat rice and you boil that shit down, nobody's going to know them bugs were in there.
I was going to say, and we have had bags of rice that we literally just bought from Sam's Club that are producing moths.
Yeah, but I don't give a shit about the moths, other than the moths. When it goes time to put that shit...
No.
I have a weekend's worth, probably like 20 hours worth of rice to put in buckets. Yes. We just haven't because I'm going to go pick up a nitrogen tank rather than fucking around with all the O2 absorbers, and I'm going to nitro purge all that stuff. There's a company called Nitro Pack. That's how they pack all their shit. Yeah. Have you ever heard of them? That's why it's called, because it's nitrogen. So there's 100 ways to do it. The most important thing is just that you do something, man. I don't think it even matters how you do it. If the time comes... Because you're not eating that shit anyways. If you open it up and some moths fly out, boil that shit down. When that time comes, you're going to take that rice water and you're going to add some cinnamon and sugar and you're going to drink it and call it horchata too. You're going to use every calorie you can. When the time comes, you see me boiling rice and eating corn, we're licking the pans. There's no scraps going anywhere. All the scraps go in a bowl, and tomorrow morning we put it in a soup. Moose steak. Did you start SOE in Tennessee, or did you already have the business when you moved to California? I started SOE 35 years ago. I was a kid.
God, you're old.
And so no, I didn't. I have restarted. I went to prison in
2002.
No.
2003.
2003, and came home in 2005.
Yes.
My business was here, but I was served divorce papers and a restraining order, and literally started my business with zero. I didn't have a sewing machine. I didn't have anything. I was in the halfway house. I went and got 3 part-time jobs, because when you're looking for a job or have a job, you don't have to be at the halfway house. Once you have a job, they let you out of the halfway house. Once you've done that for a few weeks, they let you go home. So I was working 80 hours a week as pizza delivery at 3 different restaurants, and started my shop back out of my mom's garage. I rented a sewing machine. I called some vendors, got them to send me scraps, and it was scraps. It was scraps, boxes of scraps they sent me, samples.
Of mismatched stuff.
Started sewing shit, got back on the internet, and just started, man. I did $900,000. $900,000. I did $1 million almost the first year I was home from federal prison, still in custody. I was in federal prison custody to the halfway house for 6 months, and was on probation for 3 years. Started the business, started making money, continued to work. I worked, and that's the thing when guys are like, I'm so tired, I'm working a job and a part-time job. Motherfucker, I worked 80 hours a week, part-time jobs. That's not sewing. That's not I made another $1 million in addition to the 80 hours a week. Well, I think I'm going to quit my job because I'm making, $15 an hour. I was making no dollars an hour. I was making tips. Like, I don't understand the mindset. So I started the company, made some money, did 3 years of probation. The day I was off probation, we flew out here to check out Tennessee because James Yeager was here, and we moved here 30 days later. I've been here ever since. That was 16 years ago, 17, I don't know.
It's 2008.
Whatever, you guys math that. So
there's a YouTube short that's actually going up today that's got a little funny story about you delivering pizzas.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah,
I saw it.
So if you, what's his name? Moon something? When he sees this,
Moonsteak.
Go back and look at the short that came out a few days ago.
Is that his name? Oh, Moose.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We knew it was a moo and a steak.
Doug, you guys ever make a plan to do anything for the ACIS mags? That's the Arctic International, for you guys that don't know. It's a sniper rifle. Single stack, 308 for precision rifles. You might not be aware of this. They make a rifle that takes M14 mags, or the PMAG, 308 PMAGs. So the Marine Corps has those guns. Scully's got them. They love them. They work directly with ACIS. ACIS. No, probably not. There's companies that do it. The reality is, in the last 10, 20 years, a couple of people have asked for it. And in the last 3 years, you're the only person that's brought it up. So, I don't know.
I was going to say, how many people actually own those rifles?
They're badass. I mean,
They
no, I
sound
got you.
expensive.
Yeah, but the guys, so I don't know why he has it, but guys killing people with those type of rifles, they all take PMags now, right? They're running 308 PMags in those things, or SCAR mags. Even the guys with SCARs have converted them so they take the other mags. So they're just real shit, right? Because, I mean, yeah, you're going to shoot that off of a sandbag or a butt pack or a bipod, but most of it's like gun game stuff. But even the gun game guys are running guns with mags. So, and especially a single stack. If he's saying single stack, I would assume he's probably like a California dude or something. Could be wrong. Maybe I don't know anything about what's going on nowadays, but no, because if I built them, I mean, how many would I sell, right? If I built 20 of them, am I going to sell out of them tonight? If I build 20 of whatever for 308 mags, we sell out of them literally in 5 minutes. When you guys see us post stuff on social media, like Instagram, Facebook, that shit's gone. Like there is so much stuff that doesn't make it into the emails because we only do an email Thursday, Friday, Saturday. There's like, if you see an email's got 20 items, there's 100 items we sold out of already that week just off of an Instagram post. Jeremy Wilson, in one of your videos, I saw a whole bunch of 5-gallon Scepter type plastic water cans. What's your experience with them been? How are you treating water when you use them? So you can drive over them with a truck. And when I say that, that's because we drove over them with a truck. The big black F-250, it says special operations equipment with 37-inch tires. We've drove over those cans. We did it. They work fine. As far as treating water, you don't need to treat fucking water. It comes out of the sink. While your water comes out of the sink, it's full of chlorine. It's also full of a bunch of other shit, but chlorine keeps things from growing. You're going to put water in that can. You're going to seal it. For the most part, it's airtight. If you can dump it over and water can't come out, air probably can't get in. And there's no light. I have water right now that's been on the property for 5-6 years in IBC totes, which light can get into. And I have several sitting around the property full of water that we filled up 5-6 years ago and put the lid on. And even though light can get in there, there's no algae growing in there because that chlorine has not off-gassed. It is still in that water. For the most part, when you turn the faucet on and municipality water runs, it's pretty damn free. It's the freest, it's the cheapest thing you use in your life that comes to your house.
Definitely the cheapest thing we have.
So you don't need to treat it. Now, but John, there's chlorine and there's fluoride. And when it comes time to use that,
it's not going to matter.
It ain't going to matter. Like there's going to be plenty of other shit that's going to kill you before you die of causes and age.
Not to mention, if you're drinking out of the sink right now, what difference does it make?
Now, I've kept fish for a long time. I don't currently have a lot of nice fish. I have a bunch of empty aquariums. But I have fish outside here. And we have butterfly koi. And we've had lots of them. I don't run a pH test on any of my water. You see a lot of guys doing aquaponic stuff. It's stunned, sheer total utter neglect. If there's something alive here on the property, it's the strongest stock there is, because if you were weak, you already died out. But I put hose water when during the summer when that water dissipates, because we run 4 big bubblers in there, right? So it's constantly off-gassing the chlorine in there and other things, but it evaporates. I take a hose and put it right in. Did somebody knock on the door?
No, I saw a weird shadow.
I put a hose and fill that up with hundreds, I don't know, each of those tanks is close to 300 gallons and there's 7 of them. I probably put 100 gallons or so of water in that system at one time. And sometimes I forget it and come out and go, why is the whole parking lot flooded? Because it's sat there overnight running. So all of the water is super chlorinated and clean. And you know what's happened? It's never killed those plants and it's never harmed those fish. Maybe it did. I mean, maybe they're retarded, but they're still floating around and shitting and peeing, and they eat every time we feed them. So
they go through the freeze too.
We worry about a lot of things that just don't matter. So chlorine, and people will tell you, well, you need to add a teaspoon of chlorine to every 55 gallons. If you're getting your water from your hose or your kitchen, it's already in there. I promise you. Now, if you're not, that's a different that's a different whole conversation, and we can have that conversation next time if need be. So those are very durable, but easier, or just as easy, probably easier, are the blue containers from
Cubes.
Walmart. They're made by Reliance. They come with a nozzle and a vent, so when you lay them sideways on your countertop when your water's turned off or when you're camping, you open that valve, water comes out, you wash your hands, wash your dishes, whatever, close that valve, close that vent. They're in a manner that you can maneuver them probably a little bit easier. They're not as durable. You don't want to throw them in the back of your truck unsecured and have them slide side to side, because the corners eventually get holes in them. We probably have over 100 of those here on the property. If you're on my live feed, ask me about them, and I'll show you dozens of them sitting in the hallway tonight. And I stack them. We used to stack them 3 high, and they were fine, but after about a year, all the weight on that one on the bottom, they eventually crack. They have this little seam. But if you only stack them 2 high, there's not a problem with them.
What if we put like a plank
Sure, totally
in
could.
between?
So
to
people don't
disperse
realize
the
when
weight?
you store food in buckets. We have a couple of other buildings, and in one of the buildings we had a room full of buckets, full of rice and beans and oatmeal and wheat.
Is the bucket?
We hadn't been in there in a couple of years, and when we did go in there, a bunch of the buckets had fallen over. Now I mean, the room is full of buckets. Like, there's nowhere for it to fall, but some of the buckets fell over. Like, what had happened? The buckets on the bottom, from the weight of the buckets on top, punched out that center ring, and they break through. Now, the fix to that is just put a sheet of plywood over your first set of buckets and stack them up, or a board or some 1x2s, whatever, to disperse the weight. So the weight of the top buckets isn't sitting in that ring, but it's sitting on the edges of the bucket. And you can do that with water too, but it's just, you don't know what you don't know, and the guy that knows it doesn't know you need to know it. So it's having these conversations, and that's a lot of, we talk about things that deviate from the actual questions, but it builds a lot more conversation because you see them in the comments next time. And then a lot of times people are like, oh, I didn't know that. And then that's the end of the conversation, but they gain something from it that you never hear about also. But the water thing is super easy. We really want to overanalyze it. So anything that you're going to store in volume, whether it be dry goods or it be liquids, let's say 5 gallons, right? It's cheap fuel too. When you're buying containers, the bigger the size container, the less per gallon the container costs. So if you're buying a 1,000 gallon water tank, right? It's $1,000. You're buying a 2,000 gallon water tank, it's $1,200, right? So it goes up, it gets cheaper per gallon. And when you're buying 5 gallon fuel tanks, fucking good fuel tanks right now are $100 a piece. We're about to actually put up a link where you can buy fuel. We're going to have fuel cans again. Now, if you stored 1,000 gallons in these fuel cans, right? That's a ton of money. That's 100 gallons per 5 gallons, $100 per 5 gallons. You could buy a bulk tank that's hundreds of gallons and pay way less per volume. Now, how much do you need the convenience of those 5 gallon cans? I mean, I think you should have a dozen of them. I've probably got 100 of them in 5 gallons. I probably have 100 gallons, 105 gallon fuel cans, metal, diesel, and fuel cans. I don't need that many. The convenience wise, you need to have some. But past that, we have bulk tanks that I can then fill into those little tanks, right? Because how much fuel do I need to move with at a time? And then the portability and mobility of it. I can move 5 gallons. She can move 5 gallons. The kids can move 5 gallons. I have liquids stored in 15 gallon drums that are like 55 gallon drums, but they're 15s. I can roll those. I also have stuff stored in 55 gallon drums. I can't roll those. I mean, I can roll them, but I can't like pick it up and put it in a truck or anything. You can move it on a dolly, like a drum dolly or a pallet dolly, but you can't do that on gravel. It doesn't work. So it's all conversations. You really need to have both, so take care of the easiest stuff first and then build up to get your 12, every month you want a 5 gallon thing of fuel, and you want to treat that. And you want to have some, maybe a dozen of those Reliance cubes or Scepter water cans or whatever. And you want to, have that stored. But past that, get you some 55-gallon drums. Once you got some 55-gallon drums, get some IBC totes. Once you got IBC totes, and it all depends too. Do you live in an HOA, right? I'm putting 4,000-gallon water tanks on each corner of the building. You probably can't do that in your neighborhood. Like the police are going to come and under the right circumstances shoot you over the argument that you have with them. I don't have codes and zoning here. We do whatever we want to do. We do what's best for us. So there's 100 ways to do things. It's just what's affordable. And a lot of times we get stuck on doing shit that doesn't make anything any better for us, right? I got 5,000 gallons. Awesome. Can you move it? Are you using it? When's the last time you ever had to use it, right? So everybody wants to buy the 3,000 gallon, fuel tank or water tank, $3,000 water tank, but they don't have the 25 gallon ones that they are most likely to use on a much more regular basis, especially. So just weigh that, be aware of it. And that's all the questions. I did see one more question that had come through while we were inside eating. Let me see if I can find that really quick. I think it was on this. It was something that I thought was worth addressing.
Every time we're in here, I yawn. I literally don't yawn until we get in here.
I fucking love this, man. That's a comment I just saw. John, you and Amanda, I noticed over time you are building more tool. This is it. Where is this? Questions for John and Amanda. Okay. John and Amanda, I noticed that over time you're building more tool-oriented products. Are you planning on expanding more into the space with tool and utility products, such as tool storage, Velcro-backed tool slots, tool bag with shoulder strap, or do you already have a product line planned and waiting to manufacture? Also, I'm very excited to hear about your tutorial videos and your warehouse supply plans for materials. I guess that cat's out of the bag.
Well, yeah, you said it on live feed in public.
Yeah, I always forget, because I'm talking to 10 people, right?
Well, you think you're talking to 10
Right. I go back and there'll be 5,000 views on that. It'd be nice if those 5,000 fucking people would show up and interact. Jeremy Wilson. No, that was, I don't know who that was. Anyways, we have, the truth is we have a lot of stuff that does tool stuff. A lot of stuff we already do does tool stuff. We just haven't marketed it as tool stuff. So John Carver mentored me a little bit, but he is somebody that I speak about 30 years later in my life. And he owned Eagle. He started a company called Eagle. And when he sold Eagle, all the big companies sold to a company called ATK. And they basically mashed them together and just destroyed all those brands. But he had a non-compete. So his son started First Spear. You guys probably heard of that. And John was kind of bored, so he started Atlas 46, making tactical gear for tradesmen and tool stuff, right? A lot of it's very old, like the way they're doing those vests. It's like the old zippered vests used to be where you just Velcroed these things on. It's still the same old stuff that Eagle was making, which makes sense because that's what he made and that's what he knew, and people seem to be buying it. I actually hit John up years back and I'm like, hey, can you sew some stuff? He's like, we're at capacity. We can't build enough of our own stuff. But then as I start seeing more and more of it, because I didn't want to build tool, I wanted to build tool stuff, but I didn't, because I didn't want John to feel like I was doing his stuff,
encroaching.
Yeah. So out of just respect for him, I haven't. But lately I see a lot of the stuff that's being built through them, and I don't even know if John's involved in it anymore, but the quality is not, it works, but it's not what we build, right? It's not the same thing. And our price point will be higher than theirs anyway, so I don't think we're really encroaching on their market. I do see him now doing like leather and nylon stuff, calling it hybrid, like I've been doing for the last 5-6 years. I feel like his market is kind of maybe that market's dwindling. Everything is tighter right now, right? Everything is tighter. It's more song and dance. It's more, hey, look at me to get your attention so that our sales maintain. And I'm sure that's what's happening over there, right? So you just kind of delve into other markets, hit it, quit it, onto the next thing. So we do this leather and nylon hybrid bags that you've seen in some of our trays and stuff. And I just saw, John's doing that with some of his stuff. We have a tool roll up, which I think is better than what they're making. And it's definitely in colors that they're not making. I noticed now they're starting to do, black and red stuff, and it's the firemen, and we're doing, red and or black and yellow stuff, and it's the electric guy or whatever it is. But yeah, we've got the tool roll-ups, we've got the dual tool totes.
That's probably my favorite one.
I think our tool pod tear-offs are the fucking best. That tool pod tote where those 4 tool pods tear out, because you can just bring that small piece to your work surface. So if you're working around the building or whatever outside on the property, I can have all my wrenches in one, I can have screwdrivers in one, I can have all my nippers and pliers in one, and then miscellaneous. So I kind of know what I need where I'm at, so I just rip it off, have those tools in front of me. And there's 100 ways to do the same thing, right? We've always made, or as far as most people know us as a company, we've made the tool bags. Our tool bag was literally the USGI tool bag. I took that tool bag and made it the same dimensions, and I'm like, half my shit doesn't fit in this thing. What the fuck was the Army doing with it? Well, it comes back from like Korea, right?
Where everything's
so we made it a little bigger, and then I'm like, all my shit's in here. So we Velcro, and those mesh pockets are awesome. And we had elastic loops and stuff. So that worked really well. Guys were like, hey, will you build these bucket buddies? I'm like, fuck no. Every time, if you have a bucket, inevitably something I have will get left outside and it will rain.
Yeah.
So if I have all my tools hanging in this bucket, I'm going to fucking forget it, and it's going to be full of rain. So the tool bags just worked badass. A buddy of mine had a girlfriend that was working for Eurocopter, and they had a specific tool set they carried in these whoever was asking about helicopters, you want to see a badass helicopter, Eurocopters. They'll fly upside down and all kinds of shit. Anyways, he was like, it's a buddy, SF buddy. You met him at Overland Expo, right? Friction was his call sign.
Yeah.
So we built this bag. That's where the large tool bag came from, and that's where the tool pods actually came from. When we made them, they were originally a little bigger. But we made that for them, and then we ended up doing maybe 50 sets of these things. And Eurocopter put them out with these specific pilots doing these specific things. And that's where the large tool bag came from. So the tool bag is badass, but you can't put like a reciprocating saw or your impact drivers, your DeWalt or Milwaukee or whatever. So when you go to the large tool pod, the large tool bag, you can put all your tools in there. And I built that originally. We transitioned it a little bit, and I was buying 550-piece Craftsman mechanics tool sets. So you have 1/4 inch, 3/8, and 1/2 inch drive that'll cover 90% of what any homeowner's ever going to do. And I put all those on socket trays and put all my drivers and ratchets and extenders in tool pods, all my screwdrivers in tool pods, and all that shit fit in this tool bag, and it only filled it 50%. Heavy as fuck, but you could put a DeWalt DeWalt drill in there. You could put an impact driver in there, and you could put your chargers and batteries and zip, and everything fit inside there perfectly. And it's probably heavier than you would typically want to like walk any distance with, but they're great. And for years we did that, but people want something different, right? People will have something that works perfectly for what they're doing. But if you release a new thing that does the exact same thing that looks a little different, people will buy that. And they keep doing that, right? So they're repeat customers. And it's much easier to have revenue come in from existing customers than to gain new customers. It just costs less. The cost of conversion to sell to an existing customer is much lower than the cost of conversion to sell to a brand new customer. So we kind of work both angles. Are we going to do some other tool stuff? Yeah, probably, right? All these tool bag companies, they have these, they look like nail pouches to me, right? And guys want to put a tape measure in there, and can you do this? Well, we put the roll-up tool pouch out, which we hadn't made in a long time, and dudes are like, that looks like it'd work perfect for a nail bag. It would. It will.
That's why you should buy one for it.
And, that looks like it'll hold a tape measure. So I went and bought 20 tape measures. Every big tape measure that's on the market, I bought it just so we could tell people, hey, does this fit this? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. A buddy of mine printed some 3D pieces that go on a Baofeng radio so the knobs don't get turned, and it wasn't fitting in our pouch. I'm like, Send me a link to it. I'll buy one, and we'll verify that this works, right? Like all the flashlight pouches. We make probably 20 of them. Really, you only need 4 of them. You need a small, medium, large, but I don't know the lengths of all these flashlights, right? And if I had a picture, because guys are lazy, I'll be like, this will hold a 6-inch flashlight. Will it? Maybe if the 6-inch flashlight has a 1-inch head, but what if it has a fucking 3-inch head, right? It just took a lot of the Velcro off the front that would contact, right? So if you show them, they will buy it. And you just have to weave a story. And that's a lot of the tool stuff. Yeah, we have some tool stuff. Yes, we're going to do some more tool stuff. Much of our tool stuff could totally be done with medical stuff. Our medical backpack, fucking badass. It doesn't have a lot of whiz bangs and widgets and grommets. Guys do that because they don't have labor. They don't have skill, but anybody can put in grommets, right? That's the lazy way to do it because you don't have to sew. So you see all these med bags come out with all these grommets, and then they sell it to you as, we're going to let you set it up however you want because you're just going to use shock cord to hold all your stuff. No, the truth is they're doing that because it's much lower cost of manufacturing and they don't have the skill to build it, right? So we build it up and we give you all the pouches that go in it and shit. Whatever, buy whatever you want. But I mean, you could fill that medical backpack completely with tools. It'd be way fucking too heavy, but it's completely doable. So the answer is we probably have 20 things that already do what you want. But yes, we will weave the story and market it in that manner in the future, and you will see them. And yeah, we do have some new things that we will do for that, yes. But
the answer is yes.
Right now, I have a lot of pee that I have to let out. And thank you for participating. I hope you had some entertainment, and I hope you learned something here. And that was the episode 25 members only question and answer. If you get anything from this, tell somebody about it, please. Tell them, hey, go over, check out John. He does a live video every night at 9:00 on YouTube. And if you like the stuff they're talking about, join his membership if you can afford it. I mean, it's $1. That was not turning off.
Trying to tear us down,